session.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's great to have so many of you on the call. I think, as Amelia has said, we do expect you to have lots of questions. You know, this is an exciting time, so just making sure that we make use of the chat box, which is on the right hand side, and we'll do our best throughout the session to answer those questions. But really what we're really here to do is to reassure you that by considering USEN, you're going to be in safe hands and starting with us. So some stats that you might already know, but we are the biggest provider of college-based higher education in Greater Manchester. So we've got really expert staff that are used to teaching at higher education, but within the context of FE, which means that you're going to have the really strong academic background to your subject, as well as those practical elements. So it's that combination of the practical together with the academic. And because of that skill set that you're going to achieve by working at USEN, what we find as well is that a lot of our students will go straight into employment for those jobs. So as well as having the academic robustness, you're going to make sure that you get the job that you want. And that's a great reason for choosing USEN Manchester. If you're here because you're thinking about the Arden, you'll also be reassured to know that that's actually one of the top 5 drama schools in the UK. And most importantly though, the best thing that we are most proud of about USEN is just how happy our students are. Their satisfaction survey of students continues to grow and grow. And that's because they have such a great experience. And our job today is to try and unpack that a bit more for you. So we think that you've made the right choice by considering USEN Manchester. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll feel a bit more confident about that choice too. So starting university and what to expect, what are the kind of things that we're going to cover in today's session? Well, first of all, we're going to explain a little bit more about what student life is like. We're going to tell you about the support that's available. We're going to talk a bit more about the kind of study skills that you can start to work on just now to enable you to hit the ground running. And we expect that a lot of people come with some sort of expectations about what it's going to be like, and some of that's true and some of it isn't. So we're going to try and do our best to banish some of those myths and misconceptions. But most importantly, what we would love to do is spend some time at the end to answer any sort of questions that you might have. But before we really get started in all of this, I just want us to take a wee second and think about why is it that we are deciding that we want to pursue a degree on higher education. And I think really for me, Nelson Mandela's quote really sums up what it's about. And it's that education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. And just given everything that's happening just now in the world, it's scary times, but we really within ourselves have the ability to be the change that we want to see in the world, and to really make the most of our education and the opportunities that it brings around, and not just thinking about globally changing the world, but I'm guessing that you want to start university because there's something about your own world that you want to change, and our job here is to help you to make that change to your world that you want to make. So if you can, and if you don't mind sharing, looking at the chat box, what are some of your expectations of student life at USEN? So I'm just going to give just a few seconds, maybe a minute, and Amelia's going to keep an eye on that chat box just for you to share what are some of the things that you're expecting about being a student at the USEN Manchester. Okay.
Okay, so we've had just a couple. One person says independence.
Great.
Being able to get a job.
Yep. And that's it, isn't it? That's why we're doing this. We're here because maybe we're moving to Manchester for the first time. We're moving out of our parental home, perhaps for the first time. And for some of us, it's about the longer term. It's about, right, in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, this experience now is going to be allowing me to get a better job. So what you'll expect then is that coming to a university that values employability skills, that gives, you know, value to careers. And I can absolutely reassure you that we do. We have lots of a dedicated team that's all focused on careers, enterprise and employability, which I'll say more about. And the other thing about independence, yes, it's definitely about asserting yourself. It's about rediscovering or discovering a passion for your subject and growing with that expertise. So yes, it's definitely about being independent, and we can sort of help guide you with those steps. So the way that we will do that is through our sort of student support services. So Future You, the best way to think about it is it's a one-stop shop for everything to do with your student experience and what it means to study at UCM Manchester. So we talked, for example, there about independence. So for some of you, you might need help with accommodation. So we just want to let you know that now, if you have any queries about accommodation, you're not sure where you want to live, you're not sure how it's going to work, please ask that question of us and we'll make sure that you're put in touch with the right department, who's our careers and welfare team. We partner up with One Housing in Manchester, so we've got access to lots and lots of student accommodation, and we can make sure that we find the right fit for you and for your budget. But the important thing is that we start to think about these things now rather than waiting until September, because a lot of these houses are allocated. So we want to help you sort that out now. And as well as that team helping with accommodation, the student finance, so making sure that you guys have all now applied for your student loan, that you're comfortable with what that means in terms of repaying it, and that you're also aware that as a university we have our own hardship funds, we have our own bursaries. So please do get in touch with our student finance team to see what you're entitled to. And by asking that now and finding that out now, it just means all that support's in place for you when you get started in September. So asking those questions now. Now, for some of you, we've got a real mixed diversity of students, which is what we love at UCM. So some of you might be coming straight from college, straight from sixth form. There might be others in the room who've had a bit of a gap. It's been a wee while since you've studied. Either way, for most of us, we've not been on a sort of traditional education environment since at least March, because obviously that all went to working on home. So to help give a refresh on study skills, we do have a summer school, and I'll say more in the next slide. But one of the great things about UCM is that we do have sort of smaller class sizes. So a lot of the study skills that you need for your particular vocational area, so for example, if it's makeup artistry, perhaps you're at the film school, perhaps you're going to be at the Arden, there will be sort of specific sort of academic study skills associated with that area, and because it's small classes, your tutors are going to be a great source of that expertise. But as well as getting that support in the classroom, we've got lots of support outside the classroom, and you'll find that delivered by the library. There'll be sessions running throughout the year, and as I said, also the sort of summer school. But most importantly, under that umbrella, the person that you really need to get started with and get to build that relationship with at the beginning is your personal tutor. So at UCM we have a personal tutor model. So you will have a minimum of 3 one-to-ones with that personal tutor who's there to really help make sure that you're on top of the academic work, that you've got all the sort of academic study skills in place. So your personal tutor is your first port of call to help with all of that. We've got the library, we've got dedicated sort of study skills sessions going on, but as I said, because of the way that the teaching is structured at UCM, you'll also get a lot of that support in class. So if anyone's apprehensive about that, please let me reassure you, we are here to help. Now, just at the next point, I'd really love to bring in Sam, because he's best placed to talk to you about the student voice and the student union. This is key to the student experience. We know that much of what you want to get out of university is being able to, work with one another, work alongside one another, join groups and societies where people share similar passions and interests. So I'll hand over to Sam right about now to pick up on that.
Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Sam. So I really like the comment as well, just to quickly talk about that, about independence, because that was actually a really big thing that I learned whilst I was at UCM Manchester as well, because I studied theatre and performance at the Arden School of Theatre. So yeah, university does make you become more independent, both in terms of your studies, but also in terms of thinking about your career options as a professional in the future, as well as your studies, as well as if you're having a part-time job alongside your studies. It really does make you become more a rounded individual and more independent. So yes, so I'm currently the Students' Union President of UCM Manchester and the Manchester College. So I have been for the last 2 academic years almost, because I started in September 2018. So it was sort of like a graduate job really. And as I say, I sort of worked my way up. So I did my theatre and performance course. I was a student rep, and then I was a student advocate. And again, all of these are really good positions for that kind of student voice experience. And then that eventually I worked my way up into doing the Students' Union president role. So Students' Union is an organisation of students. It's run by students. It's for students. In short, it's about empowering students to create their own campaigns and form their own societies. And we represent and support student voice and academic interests. So the two are very much interlinked. The Students' Union also, as I say, it's not just about the student voice, it's about societies. So we've had the Creative Networking Society, for example, which you can access in September, those that are starting then, where all the different creative students that we have, because we're not just a wonderfully diverse student population, we have diversity of talent as well. So all the arts students that do like visual arts courses or filmmaking or acting have come together in the past in terms of curriculum, in terms of non-curricular opportunities, which is what this society is about, and we've had students collaborate to create unique projects. And I think also, even though we're in the challenging times that we're in now, and you can expect a very different kind of student experience, the fact that it's all online actually makes it a lot easier in some ways for the Students' Union, because then it's kind of your one place that you need to go to, and if needs be, we will signpost you to the future use support services that exist, as Annette explained. And then what else? We have a tech society as well, so complete contrast to a more creative society, and that one is all about with computing students, and some business students have also got involved with that as well, because they've been using programs like Microsoft Excel and things that I don't understand, but I still find really fascinating. We've had students as part of the members of those societies. For the first time, they've grown in confidence, and they've done presentations to the rest of the society about things that are really fascinating, and and skills that are, and the experiences that are transferable for the world of work. So, you know, it's about having fun, but it's also very much geared up for you to get those employability skills, as Annette said, and those appropriate skills. What else? So yes, we've had campaigns as well. So we have had a single-use plastics campaign where I got to chair a mayoral meeting with the Mayor of Greater Manchester and other Greater Manchester colleges and universities around single-use plastics and eradicating single-use plastics on campuses. Hence, I've got this reusable USM Manchester coffee cup today with a cup of tea inside. Yorkshire tea is the best tea. Debatable, maybe. You might have something to say in the comments about that. Anyway, so yeah, that was fun, single-use plastics, and that's involved training up students, you know, in terms of environmental and sustainability issues, which is very important going forward into the future in terms of how we look after our planet. That all came from student reps as part of the student voice system. They were like, we're not happy that there's loads of single-use plastic items on campus, so we did something about it. And we also got the rest of Greater Manchester involved, colleges and universities. So we escalated that student voice. So if you're a student rep, if you're a volunteer as an SU officer, where you can receive Amazon vouchers as well as drive forward change for other students, you can expect to be you know, leading the way with this change, and it's a very rewarding role, and it's about building that sense of belonging. And I'm not going to be the president for much longer now. I'm in my final 2 weeks, because I can only do a maximum of 2 years. But if you stay tuned for Thursday's webinar, open online session, you can find out more then about the Students' Union on there, and I'll go into more detail about it. And you'll get to meet the new president, called Mary Ann, and there's also the vice president called Nella that you'll be able to able to find out more about her as well. So that's all. I'll leave that for Thursday's session. But yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity. It's not just about you know, going to class or engaging online with a class and that's it. There's more to USEM Manchester than that. It's as much about, you know, the effort you sort of put into it, and then you'll get loads out of it. You know, it's about making the most of your degree, because you are paying for it, your courses. So yeah, it's about engaging everybody. It's about finding out about other people's lives, other people's stories. That's all possible through the Students' Union. It's about celebrating student success stories. And it's been a really transformative journey for me ever since sort of moving from a rural town in North Yorkshire to now moving to the big city. Like some of you might be now on this call. You might be moving to Manchester, especially for your course, and it's a big time. It's a big adventure, but I've honestly grown so much as a result of it, and I know USEM Manchester will continue to benefit more lives as well, student lives. So yeah, I'll come in a bit later on with other things about the student experience, but that is a bit about student voice and the Students' Union there. So I'll pass back over to Annette, who will continue the PowerPoint.
Thank you, that's great. And I think really at the heart of what Sam's saying there is that we are an organisation that's absolutely dedicated to inclusivity, to equality. They are very much our values. And for that reason, we really want to support students that are coming to us with a disability as well. So we want to make sure that the environment is accessible and as inclusive as it possibly can be. So we've got a designated team. So if you feel that you're a student with a declared need, then please let us know, and we can put you in touch with our team to make sure that things like the Disabled Student Allowance, normal ways of working, all of that, those conversations have happened before you've started to sort of help ease that transition, so that you're not on the back foot. But we are really inclusive. As I said, we will do everything that we can to support our students that come with us with a disability. The other thing is we're really caring about, and it's, it won't have escaped you, it's in the media a lot of the time, it's just the mental health, and I think more than ever we found maybe lockdown, COVID have really impacted in how we feel, our health and our well-being. But we have a designated team of student mentors that are here to really provide that pastoral support, so that you'll find them on campus, no matter what campus you're studying at, and they're there not just to help with the academic, they can help with that as well, but really the more pastoral side of things. So if you're maybe struggling, maybe you've moved away from home and you're maybe feeling a little bit homesick and you don't maybe want to speak to your tutor about it, we do have other roles in the university that can pick up on that. And if you didn't even want to talk to someone on campus or on site, we also have an online resource. It's called PAM Assist, and that would allow you to speak directly to a counsellor 24 hours, 7 days a week. If you ever felt that you were at that point of crisis that you really needed to speak to someone and the university wasn't open. So we've got that face-to-face support for your health and well-being, and we also have that online resource with PAM Assist. And we're also encouraging students not just to think about, wait until that point of crisis. So we're trying to think about running weekly sort of mindfulness sessions, encouraging you to exercise. So we've got the sports and gyms premises for you to access, and really just by investing in our mental and physical health, it really does enhance that student experience. And a lot of the clubs in society that Sam's talked about are also geared up to supporting health and well-being. And the other thing is that if there is something that you feel really passionate about, and there's not a club, there's not a society, then our job is to help you set one up. So if once you get started at USEM you think, I really wish there was, then please do let us know and we can make that happen. Because as I said, your health, your well-being is absolutely key to us, and making sure that you succeed in your studies. We don't want anyone leaving their course early if there's something that we could do to support. But hopefully through all of this journey, what this really means is that you're in a fantastic position to benefit from graduate employment. Now, we know that graduate employment has shifted. You know, many years ago, it really mattered what degree you did, and then you did a degree, and then that was a clear pathway into a profession. You look at jobs now, that's just not how it is. You can have basically just say degree, and it doesn't really specify what that subject is, which just means so many jobs now are open. So it's about those transferable skills. So our careers team are here to help you translate that into jobs and what that might mean for you in terms of a career. But we're also really conscious that this is the age as well of thinking differently about work, and it could be about setting up your own business as well as just working for other people. So we've got a real focus now on enterprise and entrepreneurship, and we're putting a whole programme of events around that to help you maybe become your own employer, which I think could be potentially the way to the future, the way things are going. I think those sort of traditional jobs are less and less. But either way, just as I said at the beginning, you know, look at where our previous graduates have went. Within 6 months, they're working in a job. So that's because of the work that our careers team do. So you're in safe hands. So before I move on from this slide, I think the purpose of this is really when you get started, just know that you're not alone. Just know that all these teams of people are here to support you, to make sure that you get the best positive student experience. And as I said, you'll find us under that umbrella of Future You. Lots of different things happen underneath that. But if you remember one thing, it's Future You, and that will make sure you get to the right place. Okay, so I'm just going to move on and talk a little bit more about the sort of teaching, learning and assessment at USEM. Now, there is a session again later on in the week on the 15th of July, so tomorrow, that will talk more about how you're going to be taught, particularly in COVID, and Sam's already alluded to, you know, the sort of blended learning, so there's more detail about that. But sometimes I feel that we brand around these terms and expect everybody to know what they are. So I just wanted to do a little bit of sort of jargon busting, if you like, and apologies if you already know it, but a lot of the time people use the word lecture but not really understand what their expectation is of attending a lecture. And really the best way to think about a lecture is it's just information given. So you'll have sessions at USEM where it's just about the tutor, the lecturer giving you information, and there's very little need for interaction. You know, you're not going to get the same opportunity to ask questions, to interact. So when we think about lectures, the academic literacy, the study skill that you really need to hone in on there is your note taking. So if you're not used to note taking, do think about just now until September, thinking about some of the practical tips and exercises you can do to make sure that when you're given lots and lots of information, that you're understanding how to take away the key points and then use those notes. So lectures, think information given. Your job, taking notes and then being able to revisit them, organise them and use them again to feed into your assignments. Tutorials. Tutorials are small group sessions that are again led by the tutor, but the expectation is that you'll have read what's been directed to you. So you've read independently the sort of reading list and you come to that tutorial prepared to give, you know, your take on it, your opinions, your views, what you've digested, what you've understood. So the focus, it flips, if you like. So the lecture is about the lecturer, the tutorial is about you. And to really get the most out of tutorials, you really do have to do the homework. And for those that are coming from maybe school or from college, there's no one chasing you up. This is what we mean about independent study, independent learning. There is an expectation that you care about your subject, that you're passionate about your subject. So when you come to those tutorials, that you are really, you know, on top of it and you're able to contribute really positively to that discussion. And because we are FE, we've got that FE element, you know, so it's HE and FE. One thing that makes us really unique is the practical element of our courses, you know, so it's not theory, it's not just theory, but it's practical too. So if you're at the film school, you've got those practical workshops, makeup, artistry, sports. It's really hands-on, and it's about fully understanding that your attendance at these is absolutely key, because a lot of the times you're working in groups and the success of the group depends on you being there. So one thing that people follow when they get started is that they start to think of attendance as sort of, you know, not compulsory. But if I could stress one thing, it absolutely is. Each of those things bring a different element to your course, and really to get the most out of it, you have to attend all those, and it will impact not just in your education, but the education of your peers if you start to miss those sessions. So attendance is key. If I've already sort of alluded to the sort of personal tutor, now they're there if you're having any difficulties. So say, for example, you're just, you've got a tutor, these things happen and you're not quite understanding what it is that they're saying. Maybe like me, they're talking too fast. I apologise. And you need them to explain that. That personal tutor is there to help add that element of understanding. And you know what's brilliant about the personal tutor? You will have them consistently across your course. So you're going to build up a brilliant relationship and rapport with that person. They're going to be your go-to. So in terms of your timetable then, you're probably going to look at it and think, well, this is quite good. I've only got 6 hours, I've got 9 hours, I've got 12 hours. That gives me more time to maybe work. It may be because if you're a parent, you think, well, that's fine, I can do the school run, or I can take the kids to gym or their dance classes, whatever it is. But this is my first sort of piece of advice, and I know Sam might want to come in on this as well. But when you see your timetable, please remember that 1 hour on your timetable, you need to add another hour of independent study, and you'll see how quite quickly that becomes like a full-time timetable, because it's that expectation I was talking about the independent study, the reading, the practicing the skills that you're learning. You're going to need time for that. The one-way information of the lectures is just one element. A lot of this is down to you and pursuing your passions, thinking about your subject, but you need to allow time to do that. Now, we won't be coming onto campus straight away. Some of this will be about learning online. So it's really key just now as well that you start to sort of build confidence using things, just as sort of Sam had talked about with the IT tech group, but, getting used to Word, getting used to Excel, getting used to, all the sort of IT packages. And then it just means that you come on board to our virtual learning environment, it feels a bit more intuitive. But we will have plenty of how-to guides, please don't worry, but it's just to let you know that we will be doing quite a bit of our TLE virtually online sort of sessions similar to this. So it's about building your skills and your confidence between now and September so that you're a bit more au fait with that. And one of the other good things about campuses now, similar to lots of universities, is we don't always, even though I'm saying in our independent study, I'm not saying you have to come and sit in the library to do that. You can work anywhere you want to, and we've got things like the e-books and virtual learning that allows you to do that. And we've also got, obviously, if you do want to come onto the library, there'll be the quiet study areas. But can I just ask you and urge you, before you get started, think to yourself, where am I going to study? What space have I got at home? Have I talked to my parents? Have I talked to my partner? Have I talked to my friends? Have I talked to my children? That actually, when I'm in this space, when I'm in this room, I can't be disturbed because I'm studying, and this really is important to me, and I really can't be disturbed, because it's too easy sometimes for people to not respect that space that you're trying to create from yourself. So think about it just now. Where are you going to study? And the other thing to think about is, when best do you study? Because for me, I'm an early riser, so I know that I'll work better in the morning, but for others, it's in the evening. Now, we're not here to tell you when you should study, but it's up for you between now and September to work that out for yourself. How are you going to study? Where are you going to study? And have you spoke to people about the time that you want to dedicate to this? So thinking about that in terms of your study area, it might not just be the library, it might be at home. And just to say,
self-directed study, because basically all of this comes kind of together to accumulates into one thing really, and that's balance. And it was something that I thought about kind of before we came sort of online for this webinar. Essentially, it's easier said than done, so I understand that, and I sort of know that from experience. But everything that Annette's talked about in terms of planning how you're going to study, where you're going to study, who you're going to study with, and again comes back to independence, which is why I really like that message from earlier. Essentially what you are trying to achieve is that balance, because some of you might have like a family life, some of you might have another part-time job alongside your studies. So the key really is to balance that out as much as possible. And I know that over the summer school, there's been loads of, which again you should check it out, there's been loads of sessions about how to plan your time and schedule your time. And I think when you're first starting out, you think to yourself, do you really have to go to all this effort to have to plan everything and do this? There is no shortcuts really, is the answer, because again, it's the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So yes, it might be a bit of a pain to have to plan everything and your own kind of, literally your academic timetable and your own personal timetable, but when you do, you'll feel so much better for it. And ultimately, if the earlier you get that sorted, the better really. So ultimately you need to find balance. You need to think, you know, social life, academic, work life, where you'll study, because and especially adapting to this time as well during COVID-19. So all this preparation, even, you know, don't do it all on your own. You know, there is people you can talk to, as Annette said, and talk to other people and engage with others who are starting out just like you and ask them for advice. But yeah, the more you can get that sort of in place, the better really. And then all of those things on that slide there, all of those points will kind of fit into place once you have that planned.
Yeah, and I think so that just sort of takes us to that sort of final point when, you know, Sam sort of saying learning from each other, working with each other. We do have sort of formalised peer coaching programmes that run in both the Arden and the film school, which we're hoping to roll out, and that will allow you to work with students that are maybe year 2, year 3, who can just give you the benefit of those insights, of those like, we've been here, we've done it, this is what we wish we'd known, which is what we're sort of trying to do partly today as well. Just moving on, we've talked already about the summer school. I'm going to just allow you in the chat box if you have attended the summer school, and what Izzy is also going to do for me is put the link into the summer school, so that if you haven't managed to attend anything yet, you know where to find some of those up and coming sessions. So I'll just stop talking for just a wee second, allow you to populate that chat box to let me know if you've attended any of these sessions, and for Izzy to put the link in.
So I think a couple of the responses that they haven't, but they would be interested in having heard about it in this session.
Fantastic. Well, I think one of the things about the summer school, and as I said, we'll put the link in there, is it will help you to sort of start thinking about the sort of study skills that are needed. But it will also help you to sort of try out some of those things that we're talking about where you're studying, how you're studying, you know, and do you get peace, are you distracted, you know. So it's a fantastic way to kind of have a sort of trial run, if you like, and all those sessions, no matter what subject you're coming to do with us. As I said, if it's the Arden, if it's health and social care, whatever it is, these are the kind of key principles of any academic study. So really, really valuable there. Now, obviously, there's maybe a few sessions that you've missed, but please don't worry, because you can revisit them. They're still live, and you're able to work through them at your own pace and at your own time. So it's not that you've missed out in anything at all. Now, the other sort of good sources of sort of study skills, when you're enrolled, we've got Skills for Study, which is again an online package of sort of study skills that you can work through on your own and independently. The other thing is that what I tend to do now, this could be because I'm from Glasgow, is I do tend to borrow and steal from other universities who've also got great stuff out there. So the University of Manchester, for example, has a whole host of freely accessible sessions on academic writing. So you can And also the Open University, it's part of their Future Learn series. They have a lot of sort of free modules on sort of study skills that can help you sort of hit the ground running as well. So the summer school is something to do just now, but as I said, a lot of these things we will revisit throughout your course at USM, either in the class or outside the class. So it's not that the summer school's your only opportunity to develop those skills, but please do, I urge you to have a go, have a look, and then again it allows you to start testing out those things about when and how you best study. So before we move on then, again, just taking a few minutes, and you can either share in the chat box or you can just write it down on a pad beside you. But what I would love you to do is just take a few minutes to write down what you're maybe most worried about in terms of getting started and starting university. What's the things that you're most apprehensive about? And we're going to give you maybe a minute or two, and then Sam is going to talk us through some of his own fears and anxieties about starting university and how he overcome them. So we'll just take 2 seconds, a minute or two, to sort of allow that chat box to be populated, or for you just to reflect on your own what it is that you're worried about.
So yes, I'll wait and see if have we got anything, Amelia, coming in or?
Yeah, we do. So there's just one here that says, I'm nervous about that uni isn't for me because it's such a big investment. Do you have any recommendations?
Recommendations as in alternative or to uni?
I think that may be just some advice about those nerves making such a big investment when it comes to uni.
Yeah. I see, yeah, because I mean, absolutely. I mean, having sort of second thoughts is a natural thing, because even I'm thinking now, like I'm coming towards the end of my role now, and I'm thinking to the future, and I think, where's it going to go, and which angle is my life going to take, and is this the right path that I'm going down? So first of all, to have those second thoughts is really natural. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've made the wrong choice for you either. Ultimately, this is only quite an answer to the answer to this question is something more advisory. Ultimately, you'll know the answer yourself. But I would absolutely argue that it is the right way to go. If the subject that you have chosen to study, whatever that is, if it really resonates with your own passions and your interest, even if you don't have an exact idea of where you want to go in life in terms of your career, even at this point, but you know that it will involve X, Y, and Z, even if you don't know what job that'll be. If your passions, kind of align with that on your course that you want to study, then that's a good indicator that you've chosen the right course. For me, I was lucky in that I've always known that I've always wanted to have a career in sort of performing arts education and sort of blended and a cross between the two. But even if you don't have an exact idea of what you want to do yet, it's about ultimately what sparks joy, interest and passion in you. If you know that the course that you've picked to do will ignite that your inner creativity and your ideas and passions, and you know that you want to change the world with your ideas and what you want to do in the future, then again, it's more of that gut feeling, isn't it? You have to speak to that gut feeling. And a lot of the time, for me anyway, like I know that my gut has most of the time told me to do the right thing, and it has been the right thing. So without knowing the full context, I would say that if it definitely is of interest, the course that you've picked, then you're interested in what the course is and the content in it, and you know that it will be beneficial for you, then you should definitely go for it. But it's also that accessing higher education in general will mean better job prospects in the future as well, because it's not that you have to do a degree necessarily, but it does put you in a good position, because I've not just learned performing arts sort of skills and performance skills on my course and how to make a piece of theatre. I've learned stuff which has come really useful for running a students' union. So I've learned kind of business aspects and ideals and skills as well. You know, ultimately we didn't have an SU brand until I came in. So the whole branding your image. So that what I learned about being a performer and kind of how I come across, what's my own personal USPs and brand. I've applied that same knowledge to running a students' union and what are the core values of our students' union. So it makes you a more rounded individual going to university. Plus, you're thrown out of your sort of comfort zone a bit as well, which, you know, going back to when I first started, I definitely felt those nerves and kind of doubts that you're describing, you know, when I first started, because, you know, I remember it was the first night that I said goodbye to my dad and my sister, but not goodbye forever, but it was one of those moments where it's like, blimey, yeah, this is goodbye, because it's like, yeah, this is a new chapter in my life. But I was in my flat in my student accommodation, and I was thinking to myself, right, this is the next step in my journey. And, you know, I'll meet new people, but the idea of the Welcome Week and the Students' Union is that you can meet people easily and it won't be such a nerve-wracking experience. And it wasn't, you know, and, you know, wherever you are, and including lecturers and tutors as well, they'll make you feel at home when you're meeting new people and you develop those relationships, and that's ultimately the most meaningful thing about the experience. You'll be thrown out of your comfort zone, but you know, you've only got one thing in this life, right? You've got, if you know inside that you've got something to show the world, and you've got something to prove, and you know that you're going to change the world, and if you've got these all these cliched but true kind of passion inside of you, you have to be prepared to go out of your comfort zone, and you will have those second thoughts and doubts as part of that. But ultimately, if you know that it will be the right thing for you and for others, because you'll be transforming other lives in the future, then it's absolutely the right way to go. And pursuing higher education, as I say, is great for potential job prospects in the future. So yeah, so it's all of those things really. It's kind of hashed together, that answer really, but it's all of those. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sam. I think
yes,
I think what you've got across here is just like how higher education. It's about, you know, it's that opportunity to pursue your passion. It's going to be transformative for you and you around you. But I also know that it's difficult, that, you know, that's kind of very much ruling with the heart, and that sometimes the head sort of, you feel that has to overrule the heart. So what I would love Izzy to do, just in the chat box, you still have the opportunity to talk practically through your options with our careers team, that can give you some of that pre-entry information, advice and guidance, so that if you're having doubts, you can talk that through with someone else in more detail, because it is really important. You know, we don't underestimate the investment financially now, that, you know, understandably you don't want to get this wrong, you know, understandably you want to be reassured that this is the right thing, and timing is everything, you know. So for example, when I went back to university, personal circumstances just meant that it wasn't the right time, and I had to sort of put my studies on hold and go back to it. But you know, have the opportunity to explore that with yourself, because there's nothing worse than thinking that you have to start now if it doesn't feel right. We're going to be here next year, we'll be here the year after, so it's about making sure it's the right course, it's the right time, and it's the right university for you. And don't start with us unless you are sure that you can answer yes wholeheartedly to those 3 questions. Don't start with us until you're absolutely sure that that's how you feel about those 3. I'm just really conscious about time. So these are some of the other issues. I'll just put up, Sam, what some of the other worries that we tend to get are. And I don't know if you want to maybe just pick out a few of them.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So so banishing myths and misconceptions. Yeah, so I've touched up on this earlier on, meeting about sort of new people and been nervous too. Yeah, it was something that I thought about earlier on. It does happen, because even when I was in student accommodation, and Annette earlier on was talking about you know, the different accommodation services that we have as part of UCM Manchester, because we don't have, like a traditional university, you have a halls of residence, but you have a private accommodation here at UCM Manchester. But even then, it's not just meeting people on campus, it's meeting people in those private halls as well. So yeah, I think for me, again, I think we've all got something to offer. There's something unique about us. For me, it was magic, to be honest with you, because the thing was with magic was it was a really good icebreaker, and so even though it you know, you might not expect that of me, but it was those magic tricks that ultimately meant that I was able to sort of break the ice a bit, and that got the conversation going. So if there's something about you, even if it's like it's about finding sort of commonality and interests between you. So it's just about asking those questions to break the ice, and then before you know it, you're into a conversation, speaking with people, and you know, you've got that conversation flowing, and that's important. I'll come on to a couple more of these, more that are sort of relevant to me. I've had doubts about kind of things like I'm not smart enough as well. Like, I definitely have grown academically as a result of my experience. So I would say that, you know, things like that, you know, don't worry too much, because, you know, if you compare yourself to others, that's sort of the main cause of unhappiness. So I would say, you know what your strengths are, and know that you are good enough, and you don't have to prove yourself. And then the final one is, I won't fit in. Just know that other people might be feeling exactly the same way, and you know, you don't let those sort of expectations, which might not even be you know, sort of don't let those expectations sort of get you down. You know, you need to think to yourself, like, you know, just remain present, and don't get caught up too much in your worried thoughts, I think. But honestly, you can maybe think worst case scenarios in your head, but honestly, it won't be as bad as that. And ultimately, you know, after settling in, I just had the time of my life, and it was so much fun being at the Ardent over the 3 years. So that's what I would say about sort of the myths and misconceptions, really, of that.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. So I think really it's just about reassuring you that you're not going to be alone. You know, in September, there's going to be at least 1,000 other people just like you, that are maybe, you know, got some of those worries. But what's great is that maybe you're not worried, you know, which is even better. But, you know, you're not alone in this, and we know what it's like. We're here to support that transition. So before we sort of end, we never want to end in a low, we want to end in a high. There's a reason that brought you here today. There's a reason that's made you apply for this course, that you've applied for university, you've applied for USEN. So what is it that you're really excited about? What is it you can't wait to get started with? And would you please, I would hope that more of you are able to sort of populate that chat box. Tell us what you're excited about. What is it that you can't wait to get started with? Just take a minute.
I think for me, what I was excited about was sort of the possibilities for the future, really. That's what got me thinking, because I knew that the course, originally I thought, you know, I actually applied for acting for live and recorded media originally, but then I realised that theatre and performance was meant for me, because and again, this is about as Annette and I have been saying, it's about that self-reflection and awareness. Like, I know that I've not just, you know, liked performing, and acting, I've also liked directing, writing, creating. So I thought, oh, you know, all the possibilities of that, getting involved in workshops, actually creating and facilitating workshops. I was very much excited about the course content for me personally. And I'm sure a lot of you will have similar thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of people saying they're excited to see what it's like living out on their own, moving to Manchester, taking control of their own careers and choices going forward. Some really good couple of ones coming through.
That's brilliant, and it's just, please hold on to them, hold on to those reasons why you're doing it, because there will be times when it gets a little bit tricky, we're not quite sure, but they're all the reasons, you know, why we're here, you know. And it's like, you you know, some of you, it's about exploring those interests, it's about living in, moving to a new city. For some of you that might be parents, it's about being that positive role model for your children. And really, it's just about that, you know, challenging yourself and, you know, all the opportunities that are going to build to ensure that you're the sort of best sort of future you, if you like. So I just really want you to hold on to that, the reasons, the motivations for why you're investing in this, to know that it will be worth it. And really now, just we've got sort of 10 minutes or so, if you wanted to stay on the call and just sort of populate the chat box with any questions, and between Sam and I will do our very best to kind of answer them. And just to say as well that if we've not answered some of the questions, it could be that they're picked up better by some of the other sessions that are taking place later on the week. So this is just the first one, sort of gently getting started, but there is lots more sessions like this to help you ease into your journey at USEM. So over to you. Any questions, Sam and I will be happy to answer.
Okay, so just going to start from the top here and go through. We've got a question here about how the courses will be taught in September. How much of them will be online? Do you know that yet?
We do. So if you join the session on the 15th of July, which is tomorrow, there's a dedicated hour that's going to explain in more detail how sessions are going to be delivered. It will depend.
Oh.
But to say mainly we will be looking at a blended model. So what that means is that you will be coming onto campus, but maybe not full time, and there will be an expectation of sort of following the curriculum online. But tomorrow's session will go into more detail, and also if you know who your course tutor is in the subject areas that you want to that you've applied for, they should be able to update you too. But more, you know, as a quick answer, it will be blended, a mix between on campus and online delivery.
Yeah, we've had two actually with this one. So if I'm studying on a part-time course, do you suggest moving to Manchester? I think this would depend how far they were moving from, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if it's part-time, yeah, I think it depends, yeah, on your subject or circumstances. But I think our careers advisors, like it's not just about careers. What they do is information, advice and guidance, and what they're really skilled at is helping you to sort of work through what the kind of issues might be. So, you know, travel, childcare, if that's an issue, work, the time that you're spent on campus. And I think one of the other things I would maybe explore with that course, I'm not sure which one you're doing, but if, for example, for the first term, the sessions are going to be taught online, it might suggest that you can access the course from where you're living just now, rather than having to make that move to Manchester. So that's perhaps, if you let us know what subject area that is, we can perhaps follow that up on your behalf.
Great, thank you. Let's have another look. Let's go through. So this one says, when will we be receiving our timetables? Yep. Will they be issued when we start?
Yes. So timetables they're finalised as of next week. So you should have that certainly before Welcome Week, which is planned for the week beginning I think it's, what did we say, the 17th of August, Sam, round about then?
I think so, yeah, because it also depends, that will inform how we do Welcome Week as well and how we schedule certain events. But yes, you will get that in advance. Yeah.
And the term tends to start early September, so the middle of September is when you would be expected to start your kind of classes.
Great. And then just a question about resources. If they've got no laptops or computers at home and they're having to work online, will they be able to get some support with that?
Yes, and that was my kind of point about, you know, if you think that you're going to need that support, get in touch now, and that's things that we can start to think about and help you put in place. So we have sort of certain, you know, hardship available, which you could use that money towards buying equipment. We've also got materials that, you know, sort of IT equipment that can be on loan. So if that's you, if you know that you don't have access to those facilities and that's going to be a barrier to your learning, please get in touch. I can put, Izzy, if you want to put my email address in the chat box, and
Yep,
you can
will
contact
do.
me directly.
Great. Well, when will the libraries be open? Do we know anything about that?
Yep, so there's already a plan that when the campus opens, the libraries will open too. They will be different in terms of there might not be enough. We're going to probably, at the moment, if you were to go on our campus, it's sort of set, you know, there's PCs and you sit alongside each other. So what there will be is like more spacing, which will limit the number of people that can sort of fit into the library. So that's why I was kind of urging you just now to think about where else might you study if you can't get onto the library. But they will be open when classes begin. So it's just that the capacity of them will be reduced because of social distancing.
Great.
At the moment, though, it's worth mentioning that there's also all the online resources as well at the moment. So yes, they'll obviously reopen, and how you work your way around that space. That, you know, everything has been risk assessed, so there might be a one-way system perhaps with certain campuses. It all depends, or there might only be allowed so many people in there. But you can also access all the online resources as well for anything that you need on there as well. And I did that a lot when I was doing my dissertation and things like that as well.
Yeah, and we've got just some questions about, you know, do we have an actual start date for September yet? But I think they'll probably receive that information, won't they, in due course?
Yes, you will. But if you're thinking about planning holidays, or you're thinking about talking to employers or managing it around schools, think it will be likely to be the first or second week of September.
Great. And if they have any changes about their courses or anything like that, is there support available for that?
Absolutely. So again, the IAG team will be able to help. And if it's a case of you need to sort of transfer or, you know, reconsider your choice, we can help you work through that process.
Great. How will we do practical sessions if we have to social distance?
Well, there's what we're doing just now is we're following the government guidance around sort of risk assessments. So they are looking at workarounds. I know, for example, with makeup artistry, it's a little bit trickier. So what we're thinking about doing is doing a lot of the theory up front, and then the practical once we are in a better situation to understand the sort of COVID guidance, and you know, when those sort of limitations are lifted. So depending on the subject area, if the practical there is no way to avoid social distancing, the plan is to do more of the theory work up front, and then hopefully get to that point where it's safer to do so. We can, you know, be closer to one another. For other subject areas like film, I think practically they're able, you know, just the logistics of a film set, they're starting to sort of manage that with social distancing. With the Arden, it's we're putting on more sessions, so there'll be less people in the studio but running more often. So there's just to be reassured that these are all things that we're thinking about. Your safety is absolutely paramount, so we're not going to be doing anything that's you know, contravenes or contradicts the government guidance. So we will be adhering to social distance in a way that keeps you safe on campus.
And just quickly to add to that, our session tomorrow, which is about how you'll be taught, that's going to be run by our Director of Student Experience, Wendy, but we've also got some of our heads of department on there for some of our kind of more practical courses. So Rob from the Arden, Glyn, who's over the makeup courses, and then Adam as well, who's sits over the film school, as well as a lot of the creative arts stuff. They'll all be on there. So if you want to jump on that one as well, or if you've got any questions that you'd like us to put to them, you can always just drop us a note either in the chat and we can pass them on. or drop us an email again and we can get back to you on that. But that would be a really good session where you could ask some of those more specifics for some of those key people, especially around the practical courses.
Yeah, I think we've had quite a lot of similar questions. I think